Wait, no, did not mean to do that. So no, that's the wrong one. Wait, what? Where's the other one? I hate that.
I remember that episode where we were talking about like animes of the year.
Mm-hmm.
I want to change one of my answers. I don't know when. I don't even know when this one came out. But Bocce the Rock.
Did you start watching that?
Yeah, I started watching.
It's so
it.
sick.
It's so good.
Which was this?
It's about it's about this girl. It's basically about this girl who wants to like form her own band,
Okay.
Oh, I've heard of that.
but she's like really introverted.
Social anxiety. It's not introverted.
No, introverted and social anxiety. Because she even said like, oh, like she's even like overwhelmed by an extrovert. So it's like, oh, she's introverted, but and she has social anxiety. So like any like social like instance, she like ramps it up to 100. Even like what was it? When she has to open like a social media account, she immediately starts like, oh, she's got, what did she say? She just starts like panicking now. She's going to become this person that's obsessed with likes and whatever, and her brain like, she just starts melting, and it's just like,
Goes down a rabbit hole.
yeah, it goes down like this rabbit hole. And it's just like anyone who's an introvert, if you have like any introverted bone in your body, you will like immediately like this anime.
Yeah, what's it called? Bocce.
Bocce the Rock.
yeah,
Even sounds like a sick name for an anime, but it's
the
just
Rock.
like a slice of life anime.
It means, what does it mean?
It's seasonal right now. It's airing right now, isn't
It's
it?
finished.
It's finished.
Oh, it's finished.
Yeah, that's.
There might be season 2. I don't know.
There's,
I hope there is.
there's only like a couple. It's not that many chapters that they've adapted into English.
Oh.
Anyway, so I don't know. Because I was.
Maybe it'll be a movie.
What's up with your obsession with like anime movies?
They're good.
Nah, I don't. No,
Oh,
no,
my
sorry.
days.
No, so anime movies are good. However, I feel like they're not always needed. I feel like now.
Sometimes it is as like an ending of the anime. If it's like, okay, we've got this much chapters left, this is not enough for like 12 episodes. Let's just make a movie.
I wouldn't have minded if, as opposed to having season 4, part 1, part 2, part 2, part
That's
1.
exactly what. That's
that's
exactly
not-
what William
that's
said. He
not-
wanted the Attack on Titan, the final season, to be a movie.
Not
Yeah.
not all of it, just maybe
But still.
if they were
yeah,
gonna
yeah,
split
they
into
did
two
like
parts,
they did part 1, part 2. Okay, that's fine.
part 2,
But
part
what's
1,
coming up
should just be a movie.
should just be a movie. Yes, it's sort of like,
How
what are you
many
doing?
It's part 1,
It's
then
like-
part 2.
It's literally about
Yeah, they're like
6, 7
the
chapters
final
left.
season.
Seriously?
It's not a lot.
Yeah, it's like the final season.
They've left the island, innit?
Yeah.
Bro, there's
Yeah.
Like the final season.
There's not
part
up to
3,
10
the final
chapters left.
season part. It's just like this. It's not really the final season anymore.
honestly, look, Mappa, if you listen to this, if you manage to stretch,
Hopefully.
if you manage to stretch the 6.5 chapters left into 12 episodes, the government are going to be knocking on your door because that's egregious behavior. What do you mean 6 chapters? And mind you, Attack on Titan chapters aren't long. They're like
They're only like 42
no,
pages.
sorry, no, they are long. Sorry, but the last chapters weren't as long as the originals. Some of them were a bit shorter than the usual. So we're not even getting full content, and you're still stretching it into.
Should have been a movie. Should have been a movie.
I agree. Should have been a movie.
They would have gotten a bigger budget, and
I-
it would have been.
They would have
like-
got a bigger return on what
Yeah,
they did
exactly.
because
How much did they spend? They must spend a decent amount on each episode.
now. I feel like the budget in anime studios is kind of split into. Obviously, we're thinking actual monetary capital like cash to pay the animes, but then you're also looking at opportunity costs of animating for that long because obviously the longer you animate it for, the better it is. So that's kind of where this cost is coming from. But a movie, you get it done, and you get it done once, and then you can go back to your seasonal stuff. So it doesn't actually have to take up your seasonal budget. So look, I'm not in that space, but this part 3 or whatever, it's definitely could have just been a movie.
But it keeps everyone interested.
Yeah, but I feel like
invested.
a movie would have been like a bigger deal.
And I feel like a movie would have been remembered.
Yeah, it
Because
would have been.
for example, right now, if
I
tell-
still remember the quintessential quintuplets movie.
I feel like a movie would have been remembered easy. Because right now, if I go, oh Joe, I really like season 4, and you can just go, oh, what part? Like, come on.
Yeah,
Do
see,
you mean part 1?
it's-
Because
it's
there's
so
people who
easy.
watch part 1, season 4, part 1, who haven't watched season 4, part 2, who then come in and just watch season 4. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
people, because there's a difference in
So
quality
that's
for
it,
the story.
yeah.
So I feel like they could have just kept it one movie, and then it was similar to like JJK movie 0 or
But that's because
That's what- yeah.
that was like its own entity because it was like its prequel.
prequel. And I understand that, but I feel like because it would have told a story that was started, or at least that bit of the story was started and closed within the movie, everybody can refer to whatever they liked as in that movie. And now with this season, they could have gone, okay, you've done the invasion bit. Let's say that they animated the invasion bit, because that bit, the suspense they were building, that was good. Then the second bit of that, they just all made that into one feature length movie, which I feel like they could. Maybe not all of it, because there was still some suspense building as well. But then this part now into one feature length movie, then you could just be like, oh, I like the season 4 because that was the build up to this, and I like this because this was this. I feel like it would have been a lot easier to remember, but
and the movie probably would have been more hype, because now all I've seen is just people that's complaining. It's like, oh, why is it?
And it's still not out.
Why they doing it?
Because I thought it was gonna
2
come
parts
out
again?
in
January this year.
Yeah,
that's
what I thought.
originally.
I
what
thought
they
it'd be
said.
done by now.
Yeah,
I thought,
everyone.
as soon as I watched the end of season 4, part 1, and I was like, okay,
Part 2.
Aaron v. Reiner.
Even I thought like, oh, part 2, like this is where
This
where
is
it
gonna
ends.
end.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
Aaron v. Reiner,
Yeah.
the rematch. Let's get it. And then they have the match. It doesn't last that long. They go on to the next bit. I'm thinking, oh, we're in the end game now. This feels like they could be like the end. You know the way One Piece is, because the end and the story's done. No, they carried on. I was like, okay, cool. This show must be ending. And then they got on the boat, and I hear Attack on Titan will be back or continued. I'm just like, what do you mean again?
It's worse than Dragon Ball Z.
It's worse than Dragon Ball Z.
Next time, Dragon Ball Z.
Because I knew even then, because back then I hadn't read the manga. Even then, in my heart of hearts, just understanding how stories are made, I'm like, there can't be that much left that you need dedicated.
I read the manga.
I read that.
the manga.
No, I've read the manga. I was gonna say, what do you guys think of the ending, but we can't say it because we haven't.
The thing I haven't like I don't know what happens at the end. Actually, I kind of do because Danny spoiled it. Like
No
spoiled like a
way.
little bit. I'm not happy about
She
that.
hasn't even watched it already.
I know, but she. No, I'm not gonna talk about it. But what was I saying? But I have seen just out of curiosity, I just googled people's opinions on it, and I was seeing it on Reddit, people that didn't like it. And in my mind, I thought, okay, I know people didn't like it, but
What did they like? I feel like there's a lot of things not to like. Not in like a bad way, but we could all here end up in 6 months' time. We could all say, cool, all 4 of us, we don't like the ending, but we could all dislike it for different reasons.
yeah.
That's how I feel. It's one of those endings. The reasons why I like or dislike it are different to some of my friends. The reasons for liking it, disliking it.
I think you've been telling me that
He's been
Isayama was like
crying
about that people didn't like the ending.
Yeah.
So I was thinking there's like a slight chance
They might change it.
they might change it in the anime, because if he got that reception, it's like, oh, people didn't like the ending, this is that.
No, he was surprised because I think he did like a press thing in New York recently,
Yeah, so
and people there showed him love. They were like, "Hey,
Oh.
buddy, dap you up. I love the ending," and he cried then as well. So, I don't think he's gonna change the ending, because I feel like writing Attack on Titan was clearly so much of a
I feel
task
like
for
it
him.
got to a point where it's
he's
like,
not,
no,
he's not gonna write anything again.
He's not gonna write anything because look,
Is he not?
I don't think
No.
so.
I googled like, is he gonna do anything else? I think he's gonna do something else.
Oh,
no,
I just
I
feel
think
like-
he'll go on to other
Maybe-
stuff.
Yeah,
I
maybe
think
not until like the caliber of Attack on Titan, because
I don't think he's gonna be a manga. I feel like he's gonna be. I feel obviously we know in manga there's you can have writers and manga artists separate. I think he might probably
Just
go
write.
into
artists.
maybe helping people write stories, but I don't think he's gonna go into the whole drawings. I don't think he liked that to begin with. Anyways, I don't think I feel like for when he started writing manga, the length of his chapters and stuff must have probably been issues, not just with him, but with like his publishing studios and like, okay, we're gonna need to take up this many spaces. Your publishing time is this long. You're taking this, so I think the whole process for him must have just got very
Mentally,
tedious
yeah, mentally.
and mentally. So to then rewrite the last segment of the story, bro must have just been like, hey, look, here's the volume. Here's my number. If you need me, call. If you need me, don't call me.
That's like Tagashi.
Yeah, for sure. No, I don't.
Let's not even go there.
Let's not go
What
there.
did he
Look.
write? Hunter.
No, let's not go there. We're not gonna. I will be here until 9
Cause
p.m.
wait, did you guys? Cause I stopped reading it when it came back. I think I read one or two chapters.
I haven't read it since he came back because I knew he was gonna go away, and
Yeah.
Yeah, he's on hiatus.
and lo and behold,
Yeah.
he's on hiatus again.
And the thing is, it's
Gone.
annoying because there's actually good like stuff. Like it has like
Cause the Phantom Troop
Backstory with
came
the
back.
Pisses me
true,
off
yeah.
because he's a good. He piss. I so wish he was shit. I so wish he was bad, so I can be like, this guy's story's not even that good. I don't care, but he's not.
It's funny they ended the hiatus with Kurapika finally appearing in the last like page. Like, nah, it's just different.
Do you think he should just write it and just let someone else draw it?
No, I
Seriously?
was a yes until because I watched it first anime, then I watched the original 1998 one.
Oh, that's so. I love that one.
Underrated,
so much.
very underrated.
So
Although I already
love-
knew what was gonna happen,
I
very
love that
very
one so
underrated.
much.
And it made me, like I was telling Joe, it made me appreciate what adaptations are. because they were very, very different adaptations.
Yeah, that's
And if they had carried on with that, I don't think it'd be as big as it is now. Because I felt like
I hear what you're saying, yeah.
I felt like the world he was going for was one that was going to be very obscure, which I think the 2011 or whatever adaptation does well with the music, the color scheme, even the voice actors they chose and how they chose to show some bits. Some bits of the story got really dark and like tense, like doing some bits of the Hunter exam. But then the other one, everything there just seemed kind of like dark and serious.
That's what I love. That's what I love about it because it's so dark and serious.
But I don't think he wanted that. I feel he wanted a world where both of those things could exist. Because there's a whole segment of the story where it's where's that tower when they were fighting.
Heavens. Is it
Heaven's Arena.
Heaven's Arena.
That was like a slice of life, bro. They were just fighting, buying donuts, chocolate. shit. See,
Basically a tournament arc.
yeah, he wants those kind of
duality of the two.
he wants that in his story. So I feel like that's why the second adaptation did much better. But when I actually watched it and I understood how, because some bits you could tell when he was ill drawing some bits, and then when he re-released them, you could tell the detail he's adding. Some bits, like you can tell what kind of stuff he's trying to convey in the chapters himself.
Because you'd foreshadow something.
Some foreshadows, even just some like the texture, you can kind of tell, like the bit with Netero. We've all seen it. Netero's the rose thing.
Yeah.
The rose when he did the zero bomb. Yeah, that's it. In the manga, the way he sketched that is literally horrific. Like it's all just shading. There's no like, I don't even think he drew it. He pretty much shaded it. His face is like dark. They did a really good job in the anime of like showing that, but you could tell like that's just malice in like a sketch form. And obviously if you got someone else to do that, they may not get to convey that the same way he did. So that's why I'm like, okay, hold my horses. Let's let this guy actually draw when he can. But I wouldn't mind if he just did R.R. Martin and just wrote some books and then I read that, or like a Shinden, whatever, what's his name's doing now. I wouldn't mind that, but I'd appreciate if, they gave him some meds, some steroids and just got him back in the lab.
Let's hook him on life support and just keep drawing.
What was I going to say? Do you think JJK, going back to the film thing, do you think there should be an arc, should be an incident, should be a film? Because going back to what you're saying about like picking moments from like a film
Spoiler, I
and
haven't read it.
Okay, no, we can talk about it, but we're not going to talk about it.
But like when you're saying about moments, like you can pick that moment from the movie rather than having to say, "Oh, do you remember that episode?"
I feel like I would have said yes until I got to where we are now, and I'm like, yeah.
I'm so confused. I'm not gonna lie.
I was confused until I'm in this group chat and JJK, they do help me explain or like analyze some stuff. I do feel you guys go a bit overboard if you're listening to this sometimes. But you guys do help me understand some bits, especially when the story shifted perspective really quickly, which he tends to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, back to what you're saying, Shibuya, that cannot be a movie because there's so much chaos and there's so much kind of there's so much confusion, which there's meant to be, that you kind of have to carry on weekly because that helps it build up to the climax, because you're thinking, because Shibuya switches from person to person to
so many different passages.
So I don't think you'd be able to with a movie. You'd kind of want the perspective from one person and follow them all the way through, like they did with Utah. Just with Shibuya, you'd be too confused. And it's something you'd want to kind of rewatch. I feel like with JJK Movie Zero, you kind of got the gist of what they were saying. This random guy, they kidnapped him and brought him to a school, and now he's a sorcerer. That was what they was trying to tell you basically. They set up some characters for the series, but in Shibuya, there's too much stuff going on for you to not want to be like, oh, hang on, I didn't catch that. So yeah, Shibuya, that's dropping this year. Yeah, good luck to you, man. Innit? That's taking that in. So very.
I love reading that.
I didn't expect it. I feel like I'm one of those people who, I feel like with manga, because reading definitely takes more time than watching. So I'm yeah, for me.
You think reading or watching takes more, is quicker?
No, I think reading is quicker.
I feel like reading takes up more time in my day than watching.
Yeah.
I can fit in episodes while I eat.
Yeah.
I can't eat and read at the same time. So I feel like it's easier for me to watch than read.
Because episodes go by so quickly, especially if you're engrossed in an episode. Before you know it, it's like 24 minutes done.
And plus with reading, I want to just because of what it is, I want to pay attention more. So it probably takes me longer. Not that I read slower than I watch, but because some animes are longer than their adaptations. But yeah, reading definitely takes more time. So I have more of a taste, back to your first point, for what I would definitely want to read and what I don't. So when I did pick up JJK, because people were telling me, this was, I think, just before Shibuya was when I picked it up. So I read everything and I was like, oh, there's some pretty good stuff. And then the confusion caused by reading Shibuya weekly that has to be experienced in the anime. I don't feel like it can be.
I binge watched that because so everything was just like on top, and then you just want to read more and more and more.
I'm back to your point of telling stories in reverse. When you do understand what happened, when Shibuya comes across and stuff's happening, and then you've taken in, then you go back and take in JJK Movie Zero, you understand the similarity in events and how characters who probably experience both were connecting the dots. They were like, oh, hang on. This seems a little bit familiar. You know what I'm saying? So it'll be, it's one of those.
What was I gonna say? So like, going back from saying like, do you think your like standards of like what you thought was good anime, because coming back from like taste and like your taste acquiring, would you say that you had lower standards of what you thought was good anime compared to now?
And it's weird. I don't think I have lower standards. I just think I have a much more extent, like a lot more comprehensive scale. What I thought is good is still good, but I've just seen better. So it's gone from a 10 to a 6. Not that it's dropped in quality. It's not that it's worse now. I've just seen better. So I think my goalposts have just shifted.
I agree. It's like there's different talent on the scene. Like same thing with music. Like you have artists who are good for their time, and then it's like a new generation of creators that have come on board and they've changed the game. Like so many things came like at different time periods. Like I remember when Attack on Titan came out and everyone was losing their minds, and then all of a sudden that's when they start to do those, like every anime has like an opening scene where everything starts off happy and then all of a sudden like there's a shock and like they flip the story on its head. And like same thing with like isekais, like Mushoku no Tensei, even like I remember when Sword Art Online came out and season 1 was such a big deal. So it's just like different talent that comes on board and like creates new stories that grip people in a different way. The same way like how we remember the big three being such a big thing at their times in which they were all in their individual arcs at like key like points of the story where the stakes are very high. So it just depends like on the talent and like who's making the story.
What do you guys think had more of an impact, like Attack on Titan or Demon Slayer? Coming from your point of being like it changing the game, Attack on Titan, and I feel like Demon Slayer has changed the game in a sense because of how the animation was and everything. And I feel like that's got like a new generation of people watching anime. And
I feel like I think they have very similar impacts, but they've just done it at different time periods.
Different time points.
I feel like Attack on Titan was what, to give it its credit for, there was a period on YouTube where if you typed in the word anime, the bit from like Eren's first transformation in Attack on Titan would come up 10 out of 10 in the first 5 results. So it kind of drew the audience from back then to Attack on Titan. Like Attack on Titan is a lot of people, at least from new anime fans, it's their first, if you're not in an old head, Attack on Titan is your first anime.
Yeah,
so I feel like Demon Slayer has just kind of redone that same wheel for now. So there's a lot of people who like a lot of reactors on YouTube who will take in Demon Slayer as their first anime, because they've seen other people react to it, or they've seen that it's easily digestible, or it's easy to understand, pretty simple story. So I think it's not really remodeled the wheel. It's just had the similar impacts at different time periods. But bigger impact, I'd definitely have to say Attack on Titan, just for how extensive it was. I feel like impacts are two things. It's in how wide it spreads, how hard it hits. Demon Slayer, I think for one, it's hitting hard because we're in a world of social media. People weren't doing reaction videos back then. People weren't doing analysis on stuff like that on the scene. So a lot more people. It didn't reach as many A's as it is now. Like, but I think in the evolution of social media, similar to how like Goku Jiren spread wide because people could watch it from anywhere from inside. It's had a very much a lot harder hitting impact. But in terms of longevity, what Attack on Titan did from that first boom was like, okay, cool. People who don't even like anime cartoons can gravitate to this, and that's still prevalent to this day. Like I'll still recommend to a 40-year-old man who works a 9-to-5 shift at Tesco, say, bro, if you like go Game of Thrones, watch Attack on Titan. Exactly, Attack on Titan. Sorry, yeah.
Literally, one of my friends from school, he never watched anime in his life. And he just hit me up one day. He's like, "Oh yeah, bro, I've been watching Attack on Titan." My eyes just lit up because I knew for a fact that it hit him. Like same way how like Squid Game had such a big impact on people.
Pay-per-view
and, like,
and stuff.
it's the same thing with Attack on Titan. Like it just hit so many people. differently. So
I feel like that's the case with Demon Slayer though. I feel like people are gonna watch, and because it was like that's the highest selling movie, isn't it? And that goes back to the point of like having a movie. Maybe Attack on Titan's final season being a movie, it would have helped it a lot. But
in the same way, there's a lot of different factors that play to that, because obviously Demon Slayer has a lot of obviously the budget with animation,
yeah.
but then because of its setting in Japan, I read online, obviously one of the main key selling points for the movie to become number one was the fact that of its traditional like values with Japanese culture, and like the brother-sister relationship between Tanjiro and Nezuko. That's one of the main things that a lot of people in Japanese culture like appreciate in the film, and so because it has that like heartwarming theme to it, that's why a lot of people gravitated towards the film in Japan as opposed to like other things. So it was mainly like a cultural thing as opposed to like, oh yeah, this has good animation. So
I think just any anime like with a Japanese setting is just immediately going to be a hit in Japan and in some Western areas. Like you've got like aunties and uncles in Japan that's just talking about Demon Slayer. Like it's just like it's everywhere in Japan.
Yeah. They've got the whole
Yeah.
train, the Mugen train, like that, the physical train.
They made it. Yeah.
So
I was gonna, oh my god, my brain died again. I was gonna say something. Oh, what is it?
You should just keep repeating like what you're
I
saying.
know, that's what I was
your
gonna
head.
in
You
my
just
head,
keep
and then
repeating
it
that.
goes because someone says something. It was about Attack on Titan and Demon Slayer.
because they did air at the same time.
Yeah, I remember on Twitter there
a
was
few years
it was
ago.
like
I mean last year.
what was it? Attack on what day was it? Was it Sunday?
the same day?
Out? Yeah, they were coming. I think they were coming out the same day.
Because that would have broke down Crunchyroll. That probably did break
Yeah.
down
Yeah,
Crunchyroll.
it did.
Yeah.
Crunchyroll was crashing like every week. They kept talking about it on Twitter.
It was
It's just-
2021. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just
went in going. Into
everyone was just
2022.
talking about it on Twitter. It was just absolute wildfire. You go on trending, you just see Attack on Titan and Demon Slayer, just number 1 and number 2. Just absolutely insane.
Yeah.